we are going to have a presentation about parking and data, and it's going to be fun. Without further ado, Connor McKay and Chris Carter.
I'm Chris Carter. I'm with the Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics.
And I'm Connor McKay. I'm a data scientist on the citywide analytics team.
And we're going to talk about the city's partnership with WAZE, which is much bigger than our two organizations. It includes BTD and a number of other parts of the city apparatus, but we do the short straws to talk tonight. In the fall of 2014, the city entered into a partnership with WAZE, which is a travel app, traffic app that some of you may have used before. There were 10 other cities in this connective citizen partnership. And what does that give us? WAZE actually has about 500,000 users in the Boston area, so it's a tremendous amount of data about what's actually occurring on our streets. And what does that data allow us to do? Well, it allows engineers and planners, it allows enforcement officers to actually come up with ideas that they want to test, and for us to actually get feedback on how congestion is actually impacting our roadways. So we started looking at this, and we decided that the first thing that I'm going to pass it to Connor to talk about actually what the data is that we collect.
So we receive data in two buckets. We receive user-submitted alerts and auto-detected jams. So we get an objective and a subjective measure of what's happening on our roadway network. So users, if you're traveling down the street, if you're stuck in traffic, if you see something like an accident, you can submit that to WAZE, and we get that. So we can pipe that into our traffic management center. We can include that as part of analyses. We do both of these things actively. There's also the auto-detected jams feature, which is when WAZE computes that you are traveling slower than free flow speed, which is something that they have computed on their end. An automatic alert goes into the system saying that there is a traffic jam at this location, and there are these features associated with that jam. And we're able to analyze this data as part of our intervention analyses. And I must say that this data has really built an experimental mindset and proved the value in experimentation in terms of interventions in the transportation sphere. So this is really exciting stuff for everyone that's a bit of a policy wonk.
So I ride my bike to work. Sometimes I take the bus. One of the biggest problems that I encounter is double parking, right? So we know that double parking has some safety implications for cyclists and pedestrians, but it also takes 2 lanes of traffic often and turns it into 1 lane of flow. So we thought, can we look at double parking and how it actually impacts congestion? So we had a scientist look at 4 weeks of data coming in from WAZE. One of the things you can do is report car on shoulder, which in an urban context is double parking. And we saw that there were 173 traffic jams that could be associated with double parking, which is, it's a lot, right? So this, how many people ride their bike here? Yeah, right? So it's beyond an annoyance and beyond a safety issue. It's actually causing greenhouse gas pollution within our city. So we took those and we mapped out 5 different routes for enforcement officers in the most pervasive areas. And then we worked with BTD to put officers on bicycles.
We use a lot of restraint before we write citations. We sometimes tell constituents to move numerous times, sometimes 3, 4, 5 times before they actually move. How you doing? Do you mind just circling around because it's rush hour? When it comes to the rules and regulations, sometimes we all need friendly reminders. And that's basically what it is. We try to give friendly reminders. Some people are unreasonable, some people aren't. So you try to just find that balance.
So what you heard Adam talk about there was actually that he's not really writing tickets. He's asking people to move along, right? So if we'd done this in the past, we would have looked at how many tickets did we issue as a data point. But what we were looking at here is actually how did it impact congestion, and the WAZE data allows us to do that. So I'm going to give sort of 2 quick examples of what we saw. This is Kenmore Square, and you can see on in the sort of salmon color there, the control experiment. And we actually had an improvement where these strike teams were, right? People were spending less time in traffic jams. I know bar charts are sometimes hard to read, so this is a good thing, right? People are spending less time waiting. In the Boston medical area, we actually saw something that was a little bit different, right? We see that we actually didn't have a great impact with the strike teams, and in some cases it got a little bit worse, right? That people are feeling like maybe this isn't working. And what it really means is that we probably need to dive in this a little bit deeper, right? These are place-specific things. Planners know that you need to sort of evaluate this on multiple levels. So this is just sort of one first cut at that. But when we were debriefing all the bicycle enforcement officers, the thing that really came up for them was they were seeing problems at intersections, particularly in the Longwood Medical area, which sort of started to inform our next experiment, which Connor's going to talk about.
So we decided to take the advice of our parking enforcement officers and design an experiment around it. So what we're going to target with this experiment, and actually the experiment recently concluded, is box blocking behavior. So standing in an intersection in your vehicle. So this is like double parking. It is a significant safety issue, and it is an issue that affects congestion and affects the urban roadway network in general. So here's a list of the intersections that we targeted with 2 different interventions. One, an officer standing in the intersection, directing traffic and asking people to move along and not block the intersection. The other, video messaging boards. So I think this all begs the question, like, how do we do this? We write a lot of code. What you can see here is, and I'm glad Casey was brought up earlier, because this is actually a polygon that we drew around the Casey area when we wanted to study what happens when we pull down an overpass. What sort of impact on traffic do we have, and where are the jams concentrating, and what can we do about those jams? So you guys are actually going to get the first view of some of the very preliminary results from Don't Block the Box. So this is the mean number of user-submitted jam alerts at an officer intervention site. So you can see that across the board, we actually have impacted how people feel in intersections in a pretty positive way. There are some mixed results, like with our double parking experiment, but across the board, we're seeing some really interesting results, and I think this brings up sort of like how effects of this sort of nature are really local, and I think we need to dive into intersections where we see a consistent effect and see what is causing this consistent positive or negative effect, and what can we do policy-wise to address these issues.
So I have no time left, which is perfect, because this is the last slide. As you know, with any experimentation, some things don't necessarily go as planned. So we wanted to leave you with one sort of unintended outcome when we were doing enforcement around Don't Block the Box. Thank you.